Great compassion soothes conflict. You took 500 vows, praising your pure lotus name brings progress. I prostrate to compassionate master from Wutai. Blessings from Manjushri in heart. I pray to the Venerable Jigme Phuntsok. May blessings of mind transmission for realization. The profound Dharma, rare in eons, now that I see here, get it realized, Tathagata. To free sentient beings, I ask everyone to give rise to the unsurpassable bodhicitta. Next, we will continue our discussion on the sword of wisdom that destroys demons. Among the 5 precious swords of the omniscient Mipham Rinpoche, this is the sword that destroys the hosts of demons. We have mentioned some of the content within this text earlier. Actually, when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok was teaching at that time, there is no direct translation, just a simultaneous translation. But when comparing with the simultaneous interpretation now, in fact, every verse in this text was basically explained in detail by the Dharma King at that time. He explained, but in simultaneous interpreting, these explanations were also recorded. As for the recorded content, approximately 90% of the total amount in question can be matched up with its corresponding records or data, meaning, so sometimes when looking at these verses at first glance, if some of the verses are not very easy to understand, we can take a look at the Dharma King's teaching, the Sword of Wisdom. The Sword of Wisdom, a legendary artifact here. When I talk about demon-destroying sword, it was put together separately and individually. Today, we will continue to discuss the topic we started last time and explore it further together. This teaching, in fact, it uses the metaphor of a precious sword. This sword destroys the hosts of demons. In ancient times, during warfare, people generally used long swords, arrows, bow and arrows, and precious swords to engage in battle. It represents our wisdom, which is equivalent to an incredibly precious sword. As for the hosts of demons, they are like the opposing side. For example, the demon king Mara every day shoots 5 flower arrows at every practitioner. It may seem as if all of these are quite pleasing, but in reality, once they finally enter completely inside you, destroy fully. So here, Mipham Rinpoche uses this precious sword facing the arrows of the demon hosts, not only to block them, but to cut them all down completely, or to destroy all enemy forces of the demon hosts. This is the metaphor being used here. So next, for each and every one of us, sentient beings, everyone should also know, in the process of practice, today you might be struck by the arrow of greed, tomorrow by the arrow of anger, then by the arrow of stinginess, or the arrow of jealousy, and the arrow of arrogance. Generally speaking, greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and doubt, as we know, often tend to appear in our lives. There's also such a classification. And just as it is exactly described here, delusion is the root of all afflictions. So greed, anger, doubt, jealousy, and stinginess in the teachings of Guru Padmasambhava. Often heart words of Guru Rinpoche, which I have recently translated in less than a year, finished translation, with a total of approximately 146 zero characters in total. Although during the translation process, it truly was, the world is facing turbulent changes, which everyone is well aware of, including our institute, where unexpected obstacles arose. Many of our Dharma friends have also had no real choice but to simply go to their respective places, including myself. Sometimes my health has not been good and so on. So translating this treatise compared to times that were relatively peaceful in the past was indeed a bit different. During translation, sometimes I was translating at 4 or 5 in the morning. Sometimes it was on an airplane, and sometimes even in winter, I came back to the institute more than 10 times, 13 times, or maybe more. I would go down and come back up again in between In the past, I never came back in winter. But during this period, I was translating, proofreading, and thoroughly cross-checking each and every single day without much interruption or disturbance at all. This time, the entire text has been translated. There are some profound instructions on secret Dharma within it. Ideally, one has received the empowerment, is practicing or has completed the preliminaries. This is really the best way. Of course, this also cannot be controlled because now there are all kinds of languages around the world, and it has already been translated into many different scripts. If we try to control it alone, it might not actually be possible. Even with Tibetan books, there are many different versions as well. So regarding this book, at that time, many Khenpos also asked me to translate. I wasn't sure I could finish it, and I had some doubts in my heart, but now it has finally been completed. Now it's complete. You should, whether it's books, recordings, simply preserve what should be preserved. As I've said before in the past, basically, when everything was undamaged, I reminded everyone, nowadays impermanence is everywhere, all around us. If something unexpected happens, it might be too late to react. So you yourself should, for some rare books, some precious audio recordings, or even electronic files, such as documents and the like, you should make sure to preserve them in different ways so that when you need them, you can use them yourself. That's why I personally really wanted to talk about Guru Rinpoche's heart advice on Guru Rinpoche practices. Indeed, after finishing this teaching, it basically covers our entire path of practice in our journey. Everything is already included. Simply, it is truly, truly extraordinary. This kind can't be fully expressed in words alone. If we really have the opportunity to study all of it, it could bring significant and truly tremendous progress to everyone's Vajrayana and Sutrayana practice. There has been a huge improvement, absolutely. But due to time limits and other factors right now, I hope in the future, when possible, no matter what, I worry about the possibility of impermanence occurring. So I'm providing these materials to everyone in advance. After receiving them, it's best if you read through them yourself at least once. But I'm concerned for many reading, it seems we can't grasp the meaning within. Over the past few years, I've had a deep realization about this. For example, over 1,000 verses of Bodhikarevatara, if no one explains it to you and you just read it once on your own, no matter how many times you read it, you might not understand its meaning. The same goes for the teachings of Guru Rinpoche. If no one explains them and you don't study them in depth, just reading them once, you may not be able to savor the profound. So actually, even if one has wisdom, if no one explains Dharma, meaning isn't clear, this principle is indeed certainly true. Now, let's continue from where we left off last class. In the last session, we discussed the antidotes to greed. Now, these 5 swords, analyzing greed is not complete. Then stinginess, then comes anger, and then we'll begin discussing the next 2 afflictions.
Digi wanga njigir gang tagna yondan mepr yang nibatami yone be ngubo ndala mene se chakba mepr maz ji maksang zangwi chojen de shin de yong gombre ji gangshir ngula jinba yi.
All things decay and lack virtue. There are many faults inherent in them, all arising from their true nature. Not only should we not cling to them, we should view them as a cesspool. We should develop strong aversion. So why would we be attached to such bondage? Everyone knows the meaning. Because earlier, we analyzed the human body. In that analysis, we saw they are constantly destructive. Our human body, whether in every minute and second, is undergoing ceaseless, constant, moment-to-moment metabolism. Everything is impermanent, changing in an instant. This is the nature of the body subject to destruction. If you truly observe the body both inside and out with careful attention, whether it's upper, lower, or middle, and analyze it thoroughly, there is nothing especially beautiful about it, nothing virtuous either. From pure vision of Buddha, our body is a Vajra aggregate and does have its virtuous aspects. But from the perspective of ordinary worldly people, no matter how beautiful a human body may seem, inside and out, described, apart from the 36 impure components that are present, you basically can't really find anything else at all. In fact, we mentioned before the skin, bones, flesh, bone marrow, or the internal organs like liver, lungs, gallbladder, spleen, and so on. When you analyze it this way, there's nothing virtuous about it. Moreover, there are all kinds of faults. Sometimes it's especially fragile. In addition, the body has many. Confucianism says that if you cling to this, it brings suffering. So we have all sorts of faults. Therefore, because of this, our mind focuses on this so-called real entity, thinking it real, but in fact it isn't truly real. If it were truly real, it would never be destroyed, but it is not ultimately real entity. So regarding such a body, such worldly phenomena, not only should we not be attached to them, nothing to be attached to, as we have analyzed before, if you truly observe it, you'll notice that it's actually like a cesspool, no different from a cesspit or a moving toilet. There really isn't much difference. So when we carefully analyze this body, we gradually develop an increasingly strong and powerful sense of revulsion. So why is it that even now we continue to hold on so tightly to this idea or belief? This decaying body, we really shouldn't be attached to it. So now let's take a careful look at what His Holiness said at the time. Recognizing these faults, letting go is important. But even more important is to truly understand it. Many of us, perhaps due to habitual tendencies, the body you like, whether it's your own, someone else's body, or do explain clearly in practice, we still can't let go yet. This is actually understandable. But if we have truly seen through it for what it really is, or clearly understood its true nature, we may not be so attached to it anymore. For example, I used to really like someone, but later that person, say, started stealing things, do all kinds of things with you together. Eventually, you see through this person's character and you come to know their true nature. At that point, though you might still have some I like his habit. When you think about everything that happened, you may not be so attached anymore. So in many ways, our bodies are the same way. If it's to others, greed for self, it's not something that can be uprooted immediately. It doesn't go away right away. But if you use the Madhyamaka approach or Savakana impurity contemplation to analyze it, this body if you truly observe it from within, its true nature is not really entirely understood. It's really quite a greedy situation. As it is traditionally said in the Dharmaguptaka Vinaya, contemplating the impurity of the body, the 10 orifices are always flowing. From these 10 orifices, foul substances are always flowing out. This means that, in essence, the human body, by its very nature, the human body as we know it is an impure bag of skin, both inside and out, whether it is, for example, your nasal mucus, eye discharge, saliva, or urine and feces, throughout your entire body, absolutely everywhere inside your body, there are many impure substances. If something flows out from each orifice, even we ourselves don't necessarily consider it clean, and others even more so. All the various orifices of your body that are present from top to bottom, the impure fluids seeping from these orifices or other substances are things that nobody likes. Saliva is hated, mucus and eye discharge. Urine and feces are obvious. So this shows that inside our bodies, if it were truly, truly clean, like a Buddha hall, and what comes out from inside would also be very either beautiful to look at or very fragrant and truly, genuinely desirable. But if we really observe carefully, our bodies are actually just that and nothing more. However, sentient beings from beginningless time had this mistaken sense of constancy and purity, mistaken perceptions of permanence and purity, the full mistaken perceptions of permanence, happiness, self, and purity, and think these are real, which is understandable. So the above mainly discussed are detailed analysis of attachment and how the five swords destroy afflictions such as greed. This has been explained. Next, we will talk about stinginess.
像那盆做花么头，人那样动画一，他几盘的门口那让人家那人家讲，娘不没来，娘不那老些人都不，我不跟自己么动，还有的动画现的动画现的个下。
If unable to attain merit, should seeking countless benefits and happiness, one ends up with nothing. If you try to extract substance from what you possess, what is there truly that you cannot possibly give up? You should always delight in genuine generosity. Next, we will discuss how to eliminate stinginess. If you harbor stinginess, you will not be able to obtain happiness or welfare in this life or the next. Therefore, we should make every effort to achieve our goals, to wholeheartedly and truly abandon this particularly negative attitude. If we abandon this negative quality of stinginess, we can attract 100,000 benefits. 100,000 here means a lot of good and happiness. Then you naturally separate from what lacks substance. You will be free from the insubstantial. From them, take our ordinary possessions. These contaminated possessions mean nothing. But if we can let go of stinginess, then even among these meaningless, contaminated things, we can extract something more meaningful, beneficial in this life, and the next something that is truly real. And among all the things we possess, why are we unable to give them up? Whether it is ourselves or our wealth, when we own things, we should learn to enjoy with sincerity, making offerings above and giving below. Because if we are stingy, there really is this sense of self-satisfaction or the gratification of our own selfish desires. We keep restraining ourselves from making offerings, not making offerings, not letting go. There are so many such afflictions. But even our mental continuum, we can see through our stinginess. Then with the wealth we possess, there is no problem in making offerings above and giving below. So it's not just us, but also when it comes to wealth, this controlling mindset is actually very harmful. For example, if you think you have control over your own possessions, nowadays, many people around the world, including some wealthy individuals, they keep all their wealth tightly controlled, and when they do that, they are unwilling to share with others. They can't enjoy it either. Because as just one small person, how much can you really enjoy? How many meals can you eat in a day? What clothes can you wear? What kind of house can you live in? Other than that, one person can only enjoy so much no matter how much they want to enjoy. There is no other way. But once someone has power, they start to control things. And in fact, this very act of trying to control things or people is actually a subtle and significant form of stinginess. They are unwilling to let go. Stinginess isn't just about material possessions. Being stingy with people is also very frightening. For example, nowadays, some parents keep their children under strict control in their daily lives. They have grown up and are already in their 20s or 30s, but still want to educate and guide them, constantly saying this isn't allowed, that isn't allowed, always trying to control others. Family members also often try to control each other. You can't go here, you can't go there. You can't look at this, you can't say that, and so on and so forth. If it's the children, they also try to control their parents. They have no power over their parents. Actually, this stinginess in our hearts, if you look at it broadly, is really frightening. Lifetime after lifetime, it causes you to never get what you want. Why is that? Actually, stinginess means not allowing others to have freedom. If that's the case, you end up in the end losing your own freedom instead. Because if you try to control others from love, you won't receive love yourself. Controlling the wealth of others, you will slowly, and over time, unavoidably fall into the abyss of poverty yourself. That is also very frightening. So personally speaking, I think for many of us, if we really have even just a little bit of this controlling mindset toward others, that is a form of stinginess. But bodhisattvas are not like this. It should be in the Upasaka Precept Sutra, which says, therefore, after a bodhisattva has given everything away, they do not feel regret, nor do they worry about exhausting their wealth. They do not develop regret, nor are they afraid that all their wealth has been used up and so on. They are not like that. So I think if everyone can truly learn to give, learn to let go, and learn not to control, this is a truly very good, effective, and simple way to counteract a stingy mind. Collection of Dharma says, if one gives with a sincere and joyful heart, one will be loved and respected by all. If we practice genuine generosity with a joyful heart, then we will receive the love and respect of others. Often good fortune comes. No matter where we are, we will obtain all kinds of auspiciousness. So if we, take a closer look at ourselves, we should really try our best to let go of many things. We will no longer carry such burdens. I am happier too. In fact, many people in the world today who suffer, some of it is indeed due to objective reasons. They are unhappy. There are such cases. But for others, it is because they do not understand the true nature of their mind. So all kinds of troubles and various types of difficulties, they end up controlling you. At one moment, they suffer greatly from greed. At another moment, because of stinginess. They can't let go, always anxious. If we could truly, like the great masters of the past, let go of possessions and loved ones and set everything aside, as seen in Shakyamuni Buddha's, excluding possessions, even his own wife, son, and so on, and even his own body, his head, eyes, brain, and marrow. He was willing to give up. If that's the case, what did he ultimately attain? What no one in the world has attained, the greatest bliss and wisdom. But we ordinary beings, from beginningless time until now, have always clung tightly and refused to let go. This is mine, this is mine. Trying to control everything ourselves, really. As a result, throughout the entire cycle of samsara, we are unable to attain liberation. So we still need to let go, and this is very important. When I say let go, it doesn't mean taking all the money from your wallet and immediately giving it to others. Nowadays, some Buddhists appear to be increasingly rather foolish on the surface because their circumstances aren't good. Yet they start making offerings and giving away things. Actually, this should be done according to your own ability, making offerings above and giving below without being stingy. I often say that if you do virtuous deeds, don't be stingy. Not being stingy is not enough, because when you really have just a little yourself, you also shouldn't give it all away completely. I've met some people who said they wanted to make offerings. I said that for now, I can't do any virtuous deeds here either. No need to make offerings. Keep it, no matter how much or how little you have, it's better to keep some for yourselves. It really is better this way. This includes us Buddhists maybe in the future, including our institute here. Right now, it might be that some money for reciting scriptures from previous years. These things are different for us. We've heard that many monasteries around us in Tibetan and Han are so. If that's the case, when you have just a little time for yourself, you can save resources for your future practice. This kind of merit and resources can be kept for yourself. This is not called a particularly greedy person. Having a reasonable plan for yourself is truly very important. And on this basis, actually, I think if you really want to make offerings, offering the Dharma is the best. Doing study, contemplation, this is very important.
And on our side, it's also possible that at some point in the future, for example, those who truly study together, the wealth the monastic community can possess, generally, if it's not a collective, after a period of time, due to special circumstances in the future, if it's not collective study, just staying at home by oneself, one may not necessarily have access to the shared income from scripture recitations of the monastic community, including some other sources of income, because I've noticed that over time, many of us seem unwilling to join group study and contemplation. Staying at home with some offerings, but we can't guarantee this, that you have truly engaged in study, contemplation, and practice. So what are many people lacking nowadays? They lack communication, are afraid to interact socially. I've noticed that the biggest problem for many people is they are unwilling to go to the Dharma center, including some of our ordained practitioners. As monastics, one should be in the monastery, living together with monastics. One should not be staying in their own city or just staying at home. If you stay at home, gradually your words and actions will definitely deteriorate and eventually change. Except for few great masters who, like a lotus, stay unstained by mud. For ordinary practitioners like us, if you stay at home for some time, it's hard to maintain your precepts. And the guarantee of study, contemplation, and practice, for most people, it's impossible. So if we are truly, really monastics, honestly, we really should be staying in the monastery. Now, monks are fragile. There are monastics. I've heard of people who, after staying just one night, I really can't sleep well here, and then leave. It's really so pitiful. Some monastics just sleep and eat, not for study, contemplation, practice, and future propagation of Dharma and benefiting beings by staying in the monastery. That's not their purpose at all. I heard that in one monastery, because they were buying too many things all at once. There were too many express deliveries and packages. The monastery ruled in a month you could only pick up orders twice, only order express deliveries twice. But some monastics couldn't manage this, so they left. So I think that nowadays monastics, because I simply can't buy it twice in a month. In the past, for decades, we never bought any packages from outside at all, but we still somehow managed to survive, didn't we? Nowadays, many people, if they don't have their phone, they honestly can't even sit still. Some people, if there's no signal for just an afternoon, they check their phones countless times over and over again. People like that, some look at a month. They're only allowed to pick up packages twice, but no, I still want. As for monastics, I see that every day. Generally, it's the monastics who like to buy things from outside. Those who love playing on their phones, chatters, none of them turn out well. You could put it that way. Over time, things have gotten worse. So for us, perhaps truly, whether we're in the institute or outside, it is generally considered best for monastics, whenever possible, not to leave the monastic community. Some people, once they gain a little benefit or profit, they start to change for the worse. You know, the Buddhist scriptures say fools lose their reverence when they gain benefits. What does that mean? For foolish people, often relying on the respect they receive, they lose their own deep spiritual aspiration, their sense of longing. Buddhist scripture analogy, for example, a mule typically dies after it becomes pregnant in most cases. Similarly, reeds and bamboo also die after they bear fruit, and the banana tree dies after fruiting. In the same way, foolish practitioners, even a little bit of respect or material gain, can ruin them. So I also advise Khenpo and Dharma teachers that before you started teaching the Dharma, you were just an ordinary practitioner who practiced properly and in accordance with the Dharma. Later, after receiving respect and offerings from others and gaining benefits, wow, you start to feel proud of yourself and your mind becomes distracted and starts to drift. This is very dangerous. So, generally speaking, among people, to the fools, the person who is not influenced by respect and money is very few. What should we pay attention to? When people are in the monastic community, all seem like good practitioners. But when something happens and everyone disperses, that's when you can see who the true practitioners really are. They continue to study, contemplate, and practice, and their true nature never changes. Some people start to lose their way in less than half a year. For some, it's simply because of money or the benefits elsewhere, and then they are no longer in their original state. For some people, once no one is talking about them anymore, they start to drift off themselves. I see that many practitioners nowadays, two problems. The first problem is really a lack of stability. They are unwilling to stay in one Dharma center to continuously study, contemplate, practice, and generate bodhicitta. After 2 or 3 years, or even just 2 or 3 months, their mind becomes, and they start drifting again, wanting to leave once again. This lack of stability is really a major problem. Then there's a second problem. They are unskilled in social interactions with others. A few words, and they've upset someone. They are unwilling, believing their way is right. Either they shut themselves away in hardship, or they're always extremely scattered outside. So when a person does anything, they should be proportionate. Balance shows wisdom. It's vital. Of course, I'm not good at these things either. Reaching age, I've seen many people around me and thought, wow, this practitioner is not steady. They go to another monastery. It was like this before and it's still the same now. Stayed, because what is their purpose? Is it actually comfortable for me to stay here or not? Am I happy getting along with people? A lot of practitioners are really quite pitiable. When they go out, it seems like it's just for the sake of happiness or pleasure. If that's the case, then maybe you don't necessarily need to be a practitioner. It might be better to seek happiness in the secular world. If we are truly seeking liberation, then not having reasonable food and clothing is not acceptable. Once you have them, the greatest purpose, the highest goal, should be your path to liberation, because some changes have occurred and you immediately cast it out of your mind. That's a bit like cultural revolution in our monastery. For those 28 years, indeed, we never heard of three jewels. But their character as practitioners, their practice was never abandoned. Even in the middle of the night, those practitioners still complete daily, finishing all their personal recitations and chanting sessions. But when we encounter slightest difficulty, some people can become almost completely unrecognizable, which is truly pitiful. To put it plainly, this is stinginess. Mipam Rinpoche spoke less, but I do talk about this topic in a bit more detail later on. So if you're interested in learning more or want a clearer understanding, please listen for that part of the discussion. Next, let's talk about anger, how to counteract anger for a moment. Here, the way to counter anger differs from analyzing anger itself. Analyzed on its own, it is not like what is taught in the patience chapter of the Bodhikaryavatra. Here, it mainly explains that sentient beings are very pitiable and we must not be angry at them. This is analyzed from a different perspective. People are deluded by illusion. Sentient beings lack autonomy. Alas, they drift again and again, wandering in the vast wilderness of samsara. For us humans, no matter whether a person is from the east or the west, in reality, in this world, more or less everyone is affected by the temptations of these illusory afflictions, especially the illusory temptation of anger. In fact, sentient beings have no control over this, no way out. In the end, they just drift about again and again. In the wilderness of samsara, it's truly pitiable. Every sentient being inevitably comes into this world alone, alone completely by oneself with no one else around. Time to leave all of one's relatives and all of one's possessions are left behind in this world. Ultimately, one departs from this world all alone in the end. So whether coming into this world or leaving it,
we humans have no real companions, nor do we have anything else. What is main reason? Because within samsara, due to the confusion caused by afflictions like anger, drift, it's not once or twice we drift, but endlessly countless times, described in Letter to a Friend, in other spiritual texts. If we drift through the sufferings of samsara, if the tears I cried at that time were gathered together, they would exceed waters of 4 oceans. So people are always wandering in samsara, drifting like this, without any end. So what is this wandering really like?
第三的大概呢，大个我的总想这边在人个单位人对呢，让了有个话题点，
Those who in the past, when they carried me in their womb, regarded me as precious as their own heart, and did everything they could to raise me, all the sentient beings I have encountered, in fact, between us, all had parent-child ties with me. This is the most important concept in Mahayana Buddhism. For people nowadays, it seems that principles like recognizing all beings as mothers and remembering their kindness, it might sometimes be really difficult. Some people, unfortunately, have no respect for their living parents, also seem to lack a particularly grateful or filial heart. Even old beings have been our parents. If you were my parents, I don't feel much either. Actually, this attitude is very wrong. Indeed, I mentioned this in a previous class as well. If parents say, my parents gave birth to me, that's it. No grace, parental relationship. Parents only matter. Even if your parents truly weren't that good to you from the time you were little up until you turned 18, if they threw you away, you would have suffered the most in this cycle of rebirth. For example, when you were 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years old, your parents saved you always. If they hadn't saved you, you wouldn't have had the ability to survive at all. According to current scientific understanding, if parents leave, when a child turns 6, the child simply doesn't have the ability to survive on their own. So, no matter how bad the parents are, they still have the kindness of raising you. This is something everyone really should know. Every parent, bad temper or not, from when their child is little, it's the same. Even when parents are already 70 or 80 or even 80 or 90 years old, their children, 40s, they still worry, still care, and still keep them in their thoughts. This is a kind of karmic connection, I suppose. Back when they were pregnant with me, during that time when they were expecting their first child, it was like I was a piece of their own flesh and blood. They loved me with affection. Every single day, they always saved me. Every single day they protected me. At that time, they did everything they possibly could to lovingly raise me. If we look at it now, each and every one of us, it's true that parents are benevolent to us. But nowadays, some people are not very filial. This is reality. Especially in the future, it may be even more so, perhaps especially so, as a result of the influence of Western education. Maybe so. Even in our Tibetan region now, in the past, actually, there was stronger sense of gratitude for parents. But now, in our hometown, sometimes at the main entrances of nursing homes and kindergartens, there are simply hundreds of people at both places, nursing home holiday. It seems that not many families come by car to pick up their elders. But at the kindergarten, there are always many people picking up and dropping off their children every day. These children in the future, you work hard raising them. When you grow old, they may not necessarily always treat you perhaps like the apple of their eye, loving you dearly and caring for you, especially it's not guaranteed. But whatever, we just need to talk about this kind of relationship. Actually, all these sentient beings truly have been I have been a parent at least 100 times over the years. Some treatises also explain it this way. 100 times, for any sentient being, we have been their parent. But in the process, they loved us deeply, always We should also always have a deep and genuine sense of gratitude in our lives.
Tendi punso tsewi sem rawa ni ki namde yang tongwar kab gorkab marchit yang zangwar kiedang chewe cho.
If we could have such loving kindness and take control of ourselves, we would never abandon them yet, still in the cycle of birth and death. The relationship between these beings and us is such that we have all been each other's parents and relatives. We had roles together. All men and women have been our family members before. Just as some scriptures say, as it is written, Mind Ground Sutra says, all virtuous men and women in the world have parental kindness as weighty as a mountain. It says these virtuous men and women, in fact, have shown us kindness as great as a mountain. There is no difference between them and our parents. But if sentient beings could truly act of their own will, if they had such a heart of loving kindness and gratitude, if these sentient beings could act independently, they would never abandon each other. But why is it that now, between us, there really seems to be no real connection? The only reason is because of the cycle of birth and death samsara, between womb and birth, or being reborn elsewhere. Sentient beings have womb obscuration, and after having womb obscuration, you are no longer able to recognize them again. All the relationships between us, for example, we are a family. My parents treat me very well. I treat my parents well. But after my parents pass away, they drift to other places, and after years, they no longer recognize each other. The same here. After I go through the cycle of rebirth, I simply don't recognize them anymore. So we can see that the relationships formed through samsara are truly mysterious. Therefore, if we really want to cultivate bodhicitta now, at this very moment, and to cultivate being a Mahayana Buddhist son, we should regard all sentient beings as having once been our parents. If parents, then at least the relationship between us is kindness to me. If they were kind to me, even if I can't repay their kindness, I should at least not harm them. This is simply the most basic requirement, isn't it? I try to repay kindness of sentient beings one by one. My own abilities and energy are limited for various reasons. There are certain difficulties. But at the very least, I should not intentionally harm these sentient beings. This is an absolutely fundamental requirement in Mahayana Buddhism.
Chobjir semchen kamshi ba tamjir dozhin dela ndan gunjar mumbi dendor ba jima dak mar number 2.
All sentient beings in the 10 directions seek happiness like I do. Because of ignorance, they turn away from happiness alas, look upon them as my mothers. All of us who exist in this world, everywhere, all sentient beings in the 10 directions, every single sentient being is exactly like me. What they seek is happiness, and what they do not want is suffering. Seek joy. This is our shared wish and common aspiration for us. Even those we see like earthworms, ants, termites, mosquitoes, and flies, larger beings like lions and tigers, each and every one of us, for example, people from South Africa or Europeans or North Americans, all humans and animals, all of these sentient beings all wish to attain happiness and do not want to experience suffering. This is our common pursuit, our wish, common goal. However, beings without the guidance of a spiritual friend and with ignorance and darkness in their mental continuum, which is strong, end up committing the 10 non-virtuous deeds, thus abandoning personal happiness and fulfillment and continually creating the causes of suffering. Everyone hoped their wishes would come true. But things often turn out contrary to our desires. What you wish for in your heart and what you actually do are at odds, opposed. Because of this, what do sentient beings experience? What do you have? Experiencing suffering and creating negative karma. This is simply the reality for us. It's so sad. My mother is kind. That is why these truly great masters of the past, seeing beings,
they truly regarded them as their own mothers. Whenever Atisha saw any being, even if it was just a dog, he would often affectionately call it my mother. But it seems we not only fail to give rise to the mind that sees others as our mother, we may have strong hatred to animals. Nowadays, we see on internet some people actually do it on purpose, eating living creatures alive. These people have no faith, and perhaps some are even cultists. Yes, that's certainly possible. For example, a big bowl full of living, wriggling insects, fish, all sorts of creatures, they just keep swallowing them down, just like a spider's web. Wow, in today's world, truly, see this. It's horrifying and deeply pitiable. These sentient beings, what they really want is happiness. But what exactly are they actually doing in reality? They're creating nothing but the causes of suffering. For example, many people want longevity, so they start killing. If they want to get rich, they start stealing. If you want love, fight. Or even between nations, wars. Actually, every ordinary person, no good person among them. When we look at all the wars happening around the world today, even those old experienced leaders, everything they do, everything they say, and everything they happen to think about, sometimes people like us can basically see the law of cause and effect clearly at work today. If we sentient beings truly commit negative actions, suffering is certain. There's really no doubt about this. It is certain to happen. Therefore, our respect for our parents in particular is important, and respect for all sentient beings, this is very important. Sometimes it's hard to realize great perfection Mahamudra. These things are difficult, especially for those of us with heavy karmic obscurations. When we read biographies of masters, it's probably not quite as straightforward or as simple as it might initially seem. For example, when Nyosho Lungtok was deeply engaged in meditation, sitting quietly in a small peaceful grove at Dzogchen Monastery, surrounded by the natural beauty and tranquility of the area, his teacher asked him to practice diligently. Didn't practice much. He was just simply living there. At night, he heard dogs barking. At night, I saw many stars in the night sky. Then teacher asked him, see the stars? He said he saw them. Did you just hear the dogs barking? Heard it. Are the nature of mind. Hearing this, he achieved enlightenment. There are different accounts regarding Nyosho Longtok's enlightenment, but in Khenpo Ngakchung's autobiography, it is described this way. That seems too simple. Masters of Chan Buddhism, teacup fell ground and completely shattered. In that instant, the very moment they heard that sudden, unexpected sound, they attained enlightenment. This kind of thing is indeed very difficult for us. It might not be that simple. Even is the same action, the same sound, I might instead feel anger. When I'm sleeping, if the dogs keep barking, I might not be able to sleep and really resent those dogs. When I see the stars, I might feel uncomfortable and think, oh, I should pull the covers over myself. Don't see the stars. We might perform the same action, we not attain, but in reality, we should also reflect on this. If you look at sentient beings, they are just sentient beings. For someone cultivating bodhicitta, these sentient beings are extremely precious. Sentient beings with bad tempers. For them, these are great chances to cultivate bodhicitta. And for those of us who practice well, valuable resource. For those not practice, they develop anger and even attack others. In fact, even some monastics nowadays often have poor relationships with others. They meant well and practiced hard. Interpersonal issues make it impossible. So now many people suffer from psychological problems. For such people, it is difficult. But no matter what, we must always remember, above all else, the kindness of mother beings matters. The kindness of our parents in life is very important.
I remember in the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, whether one is a layperson or monastic, one should recall the important virtues of one's past parents. Buddha said, I used to remember the virtues of my parents, supported them and offered to them. Because of this, whether I became a human king or a heavenly king or even attained Buddhahood now, it was all due to the merit accumulated at that time. So generally speaking, filial piety seems simple per Confucianism, but actually that's not the case. The Buddha personally said in the Sutra of Wise and Foolish that my attainment of Buddhahood and becoming a human or heavenly king now, they all deeply respected their parents and remembering the kindness of my parents. So we should also reflect on these principles often.
Yinrang tsewe changjir ne mzharwar de ngor ji xeba di jang tartam chapa na ngum xin jin xeba yi.
Long-lasting affection binds us, but death brings the pain of separation. Now, when we happen to meet each other again, we end up quarreling and treating each other as if we were strangers. Words for all sentient beings. But in reality, this has been especially true for a long time. The deep affection that we feel for each other creates a strong and meaningful bond. Originally, in our relationships, the relationships between parents and children have also been very good. But because death comes between us, when death comes, we separated, we drift through the 6 realms of samsara. After being separated for so long, when we meet each other again in this life, we can't recognize each other. We are just like complete strangers, not knowing each other. At the same time, when our relationship, even if only just a little, becomes even slightly strained or tense, we often start to quarrel and attack each other. This happens. So the key point is that we can't remember many things now. It was the same during the Buddhist time. Some monks who could recall their past lives, their entire bodies would change color, stain, they would be frightened. We are grateful to beings connected to us. If we could remember, it would be quite significant. It might be due to deep karmic connections. Last year, I translated the Memoirs of 200 Lives by Menji Dorje. Many of you have probably read it, and after reading it, you realize the people who hate us in this life, it's not just that they've hated us once, they've hated us many times. And those who love us in this life, the love between us has also happened many times. The relationship between Karma Chakme and Unchanging Vajra was also like this. He was the guru, and sometimes he would take on all sorts of various different roles. So samsara is really both terrifying and absurd. If we really had this kind of memory, it might be quite interesting. We wouldn't dare commit negative karma. But because we don't have this memory in this life, when we meet these sentient beings, we feel anger, especially if you are emotionally unwell, or when the relationship between mother, karmic connection from past life. Because seeing some people, you feel after watching it, I love these complex relationships, are definitely connected to past lives to some extent. It's just that now, for many of us, we simply can't remember them. Don't talk about the past. Whether it's from past lives or this life, we can't recall them. If memory is poor, you forget. Some people develop Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's is truly frightening, especially for us practitioners. Honestly, it really is. You may not remember the teacher. They can't remember their practice either. Because according to current statistics, the proportion of people with Alzheimer's, approximately about 1 in 20 people. And in a decade, the number will only increase. Many scientists are analyzing this now. Why so many cases? It might be that, in fact, our diet actually has some problems, perhaps. Junk food, people eat more of them. They contain all kinds of hormones and additives. So after eating these, naturally, over time, your memory will be damaged or at least negatively affected. So for us, including some lay practitioners and some monastics, now also like to order takeout. In fact, takeaway is actually the cheapest price. It's just not realistic, not at all, not in any way. So our suggestion is that takeout still carries certain risks. Many people, including some experts and doctors, say that memory isn't what it was. Eyesight's worse. We are not as capable as people in ancient times. So what is the reason we're not as good as people in the past? It's because in our food nowadays, although it looks very appealing, tastes great, but in fact, as is often the case, there are underlying reasons for this. So nowadays, many people, including practitioners here, as soon as they want something, they start ordering takeout. There are simply certain issues with this as well. Some teachers that I know personally have never ordered takeout, not even once. No matter where they go, they only eat sampa themselves. You might think that's not the case, but for us, we feel that sampa tastes good at any time. It's a habit from childhood. Whether it's tsampa or simple vegetables you prepare yourself, it's best not to include too many outside junk foods of various kinds. Otherwise, in the future, we might develop all sorts of diseases. Didn't we mention before that in the 19th century, tuberculosis was the most severe? In the 20th century, cancer was the most severe. And now in the 21st century, depression is the most serious issue. But when it comes to depression, some experts have analyzed and said that the main cause of depression is actually an often overly strong sense of self-awareness, excessive self-defense. Some others believe that the food we eat nowadays contains toxins and problems. So naturally, it directly and significantly has an impact on your heart and your memory. And as a result, you become abnormal. So overall, as technology continues to advance, we are facing more and more challenges to our physical and mental health. At this time, you need to find, even if it doesn't really seem like the most delicious, doesn't sound the best. Sometimes in life, taking a more old-fashioned and traditional path, maybe we live a bit longer. Alternatively, we see with today's medical knowledge and all kinds of equipment and facilities, in some respects, certain conditions have improved because of this. We may have opportunities, including health checkups. And in terms of our own physical health, some individuals might also have a chance at longevity, advantages, disadvantages. In all aspects, everyone should pay attention to their own physical and mental well-being. This is also very important. If we can't recognize others now, no big deal. But when we reach old age, depression can set in. We might not recognize our companions. Parents can't recognize their children. Children may not recognize their parents. This is troublesome. At that point, it's almost like becoming a vegetable, unable to die, but unable to live. People in some Western countries, euthanasia is legal, but we can't even choose euthanasia and die, can't live. This is painful. That's why while we are still healthy, watch your diet, often meditate, often recite mantras, often pray to the guru and the three jewels. This is important for adjusting one's mindset. Very, very important indeed. So for each of us, if you want to change the world, it's not easy to do. When we were young, we wanted to change the world. We had hopes and ideals, but that's something out of reach. So if you want to change yourself, best to regularly adjust your mind, to meditate and pray using traditional Buddhist methods, and not to dwell too much on certain things. If your mind is more relaxed, your body and mind will be healthy. If your body is healthy, whatever, it will certainly be a simple and easy thing for you to handle. Now, moving forward, it appears that we have already reached the moment where we transition to the next important section. This is the part that we have been waiting for, and it's finally time to discuss the wild demons disturbing the mind and the pain of anger and so on. Constantly enter its heart. How can the mother sentient beings not be damaged? Oh, the Tibetan wasn't recited, right?
Dambala so zirni na ndey nyang la takji pa marnam guppe chimap chum 就是说, these kinds of wild demons often disturb the minds of us sentient beings. Because as we mentioned earlier, when it comes to the demon king, it's true that he disturbs our minds every day. The main way he disturbs us is by arousing anger, and on which starts to provoke our minds. In the end, we ultimately become patients ourselves. People who are filled with anger deep within their hearts. The other day, some people said that a certain person probably got sick because he was too full of anger. That might not always be the case, but indeed, for some people, maybe their liver, kidneys, or stomach aren't well. His anger turns into illness. This kind of illness often takes root in our hearts. For beings who are our mothers, aren't they actually, in a sense, harming themselves? It's really quite frightening. Because sentient beings, when they have afflictions in their hearts, they start to create negative karma. And sentient beings don't have much control. If they did, who wouldn't want to be happy? They themselves still want to live well. But I don't want to... Wasn't there someone in the past who slaughtered cattle and killed a great many cattle? At that time, another practitioner felt compassion for these yaks. That sage, the Buddha or another, said the yaks would be fine. After dying this time, they would have finally repaid their debt. And this would really be the last time they had to repay it. But the one who killed them was in fact truly pitiful, because by killing these beings, he would have to repay each sentient being 500 times. He's more pitiable. So sentient beings, we sometimes create negative karma, whatever kind, have no choice. For example, some people destroy temples or harm monks, commit killing, stealing, or show disrespect to monks. If there's a lot of karma creation, we sometimes feel that they themselves are also very pitiable. Due to unfavorable circumstances, they have already become such people. They are even more pitiable than butchers, and they even think of themselves as impressive, whether it's the way they speak, including their words, actions, expressions, etc. They consider themselves the best in the world. But in reality, these sentient beings are very pitiable. So when we see these mother sentient beings around us, they are all pierced by the arrows of hatred from Mara, evil one. These arrows have pierced their hearts. Their minds are not normal. When their minds are not normal, they give chaotic orders, especially those with authority in many cases. If their wisdom is even slightly lacking, then the whole world would be in chaos and conflict. Now, when we look at the world, many elderly people, because of a word or action of theirs, countless innocent, helpless sentient beings are dragged into war, special pain, families are destroyed, lives are lost, and so on. So sometimes when we see this, it really is the world of ordinary people, and their actions are truly pitiful and lamentable indeed. They are especially to be pitied, but there's really nothing that can be done. Sentient beings are harmed by their own karma, by themselves. Without refuge, they drift through samsara, long enduring unbearable suffering. Who would not feel compassion for these sentient beings? In other words, when it comes to these sentient beings, they are wandering lost in the cycle of samsara. And within samsara, they experience truly unbearable and intense suffering for a very long time. Beings in hell suffer extreme heat and cold. Hungry ghosts hunger. Animals suffer enslaved, exploited. Humans suffer birth, aging, illness, death, and loss. Sentient being, in fact, just as we mentioned earlier, they are like our own family members. But when they create karma, when they undergo such suffering, why don't we give rise to a sense of compassion for them? However, if we do not have the Mahayana disposition, no matter sentient beings suffer, we remain unmoved. We don't really feel anything. If there is the seed of great compassion in my mental continuum, when I am in such a state, I'll care about sentient beings. So just as it is said, as it is written and taught, in the revered and sacred Sutra of Golden Light, as we have heard, the blazing
intense fire of suffering and afflictions relentlessly burns sentient beings with no one to save them, no one to rely on. These sentient beings are scorched by the raging fire of their afflictions, destroys mental continuum. They have no one to save them, nowhere to turn. It is very pitiable. Right now, in this world of ours, there are so many ordinary beings who truly do not really understand the Dhamma. Those who can genuinely reveal and realize the teachings, spiritual friends, eminent monks and masters, are rare like stars. Such beings leave this world. So when we see this world, it seems like a group of orphans, perhaps children who have lost their parents. There are fewer and fewer true, authentic guides. In Buddhism, as for sentient beings in the future, we do not know what kind of situation they will face. The great masters of previous generations are passing away. So these pitiable sentient beings continue creating negative karma and fall lower and lower. Pitiable. So if we truly see the reality of samsara and the suffering of all beings and the karmic consequences of negative actions, then anyone with a heart, anyone with a wise heart, anyone with wisdom, compassion would inevitably arise. If you do not, your heart is made of stone, or perhaps the seed of Mahayana Buddhism within you is in fact exceptionally weak or very faint. That could be the reason. Otherwise, when you see sentient beings committing all kinds of negative actions, you will definitely feel compassion for them.
Devshir semchen kang takala chua me per mazi ji dungur digbi wala mavjen de shin de shenba gumbre sha.
Therefore, towards all sentient beings, we should not harbor anger, but respond with great loving kindness like a mother towards her beloved child. Analyzing the source of anger and hatred. Therefore, when we see these sentient beings, not only should we not develop hate them, but when we see these motherly sentient beings commit negative, especially when they are ignorant, we should truly feel great compassion for them. What is this really like? It is like when a mother's only child gets sick. No matter how much the child resists or harms her, the mother is, without any doubt, completely able to endure it. Just like we have studied before, isn't it also mentioned in the 400 verses? Just as a mother feels especially pained and loving toward her sick child, in the same way, bodhisattvas feel special compassion for those who do evil. The commentary on the 400 verses also explains that the mother especially loves her child. If her own child goes mad and rebels against mother, she doesn't get angry, but instead does everything she can to help him. In the same way, for a bodhisattva, when they see sentient beings, they do not feel anger or hate, but instead feel even more compassion for them. So we could also be considered bodhisattvas, right? Everyone says they want to take the bodhisattva vows. I want to give rise to bodhicitta and so on. If you generated bodhicitta, when you see sentient beings suffering so much, even if you can't really do anything to benefit them, shouldn't anger or hate harm them or attack them in any way, slander or assault them? For Mahayana Buddhists, this is unreasonable. So in our future practice, if you can't meditate emptiness, it's okay. If you can't be selfless, it's fine. Intentionally harming sentient beings. This is something Mahayana Buddhists, we especially should not do. Even if you sometimes feel uncomfortable inside, and if you feel a bit unhappy, just try to endure it for a little while longer. Remind bodhicitta, whether it's towards your Dharma friends or towards strangers, you really shouldn't give rise to hatred towards them. Even if you do still feel hatred, quietly confess and repent to yourself. Yesterday, I met someone with a rather special status. He said something he shouldn't have said, but then he immediately realized it. Right away, recited Om Benza. His clothing and status are unique. He used to recite Om Benza Satvahum. He restrained himself with mindfulness and awareness. Om Benza. Then I told him, be quiet from the side. He nodded in response. Status is special, and there were a lot of people around at the time. So sometimes even people with special status can remember to recite or mistake Om Benza Sattva Hum. Negative thought enters mind. Om Benza Sattva Hum. Or when saying something disrespectful or doing something truly disrespectful, try to confess and adjust your mental continuum as much as possible. This is very important. We can't avoid conflict, nor can we truly make sure that we never, under any circumstances, upset anyone at all. That's impossible. When ordinary people together, there are often some unhappy things happen. But if possible, don't be rough before. I don't get along with anyone. This person is unable to live harmoniously with anyone, always finding it difficult to get along with others and struggling to creating. Some people are in conflict with others. Honestly, that has nothing to do with Mahayana Buddhism at all. In this class, I'll emphasize, may your practice be steady grounded. Don't drift, jumping from thing to thing or running everywhere. Don't do that. That's the first point. Second, even if you can't give rise to bodhicitta, at least try to maybe have better relationships with others, right? Don't be afraid of anyone ever. Some people are especially afraid of interacting with others. But actually, if you really want to get along with sentient beings, there should be plenty of good opportunities. Some time ago, when I went out, because of some scheduled meetings, they needed to arrange for some other people to stay together. No problem. I thought, no matter what it's like, it's fine. If you really let go of your ego, usually, yes, maybe I practice alone. I recite, I sleep by myself. But if you truly let go of yourself, doesn't matter who sleeps, how many share cars, or how people drink tea, if you let go of your ego, you'll be happy and others will be happy too. Don't always be so afraid as if your whole body were covered in sores and you become sensitive to slight touch. Sensitive people are the most miserable in this world. But now many of us are feeling more insecure and sensitive. Being sensitive is the most painful for many people, so we need to let go. Get along with anyone. Relax to wherever. People like this are truly happy. We'll stop here for today. We finished our thorough and comprehensive analysis of anger. The review is now complete.
Kirgana jirano chupan chupun solen droa droa bandrangara badna sadordo bandrangara badna sadordo bandrangara badna sadordo